documentaries. I'm going to use these terms interchangeably because all we want to focus on for this lecture is how to find the information about your source and put it together in MLA format so that you can put that information in either a works cited or a bibliography. So the first thing we want to talk about is just general rules that you want to use regardless of which thing you're making, a works cited page or a bibliography. You still want to use Times New Roman 12-point font for all of your entries. Do not put numbers or bullet points in front of them. You just start with whatever the first letter is in your entry. The first line of each entry is going to be flush with the margin, and every other line is going to be indented. And then when you have all of your entries done, alphabetize them. So I just want to show you quickly two different examples. Now for every paper I do, I give you a sample paper, so you should be looking at it. If you're doing an annotated bibliography, then it's going to look something like this, where you'll have your entry. And when I say a bibliographic entry, what I mean is this thing right here, this information that you've taken from your source. So if you're doing an annotated bibliography, you can look at the sample and look at what the different entries look like. If you're doing a works cited, it will all be just on one page. But this is what I mean by the first line is flush with the margin. It just goes wherever the margin starts. Every other line you want to hit indent. And so if you're having issues with this, something you can always do, if, for example, you hit the tab button and it tabs everything over, all you have to do is hit backspace, go back, and then usually if you go through and hit enter again, and then backspace again, and then tab it over, it will usually work. So if you play around enough with it, I promise you, you can figure out how to make just these second lines tab over. And if you ever get confused, you can Google whatever problem you're having, and you'll usually get some kind of checklist of here's how you can fix this problem. But this is what a works cited page looks like. Again, everything is alphabetized by the first letter in each entry. If you're doing a bibliography or an annotated bibliography, even though information comes in between, you are still alphabetizing all of your sources, and you are still using the same format that you would for a works cited page. So some other things to remember are italics versus quotation marks. So you don't have to memorize this, but I'm giving this to you as a resource, but I'll also give you other resources that you can go to at the end that will give you lists of here's what goes in italics, here's what goes in quotation marks. So the general rule is that big things get italicized, so big things that can be broken into smaller pieces. So a book title, a website or a database name, a magazine or journal or newspaper name, a documentary, a movie, TV show, CD, all of those things are big things that can get broken down into something smaller. The smaller things are what go in quotation marks. So an article or chapter from a book, an article on a website or a database, an article in a magazine or a journal, an individual TV episode, or a song title. All of these things are smaller pieces of something bigger. So smaller things go in quotation marks, bigger things get italicized. So now I'm going to go through some of the sources, common sources that you might use. And I'm going to go through this quickly because, again, you don't have to memorize this. All you have to do is be able to know where you should look to find how to take the information and put it together in the right format. So what do you need to know? Hold on, let me figure out what's making noise here. maybe it's that, I don't know. Okay, so all you have to know is how to find this information, how to put it together. So you need to know the author's full name, the title of the book, the city it was published in, the company that published it, the year it was published, and the medium it was published in, which, if it's a book, is always going to be print. If it's a book you can hold in your hands rather than an e-book, that is. So when you put it all together, this is what it looks like. And where do you find this information? It's pretty easy. You just open your book, and on one of the first couple of pages, there will be a copyright page that has all of this information on it. That's where you get this information, and then you can put it together the way it's supposed to go together. For a magazine or a journal, and this is not something you found online, this is something where you held the magazine in your hands and flipped the pages. You need to know the author's name of the article, the title of both the article and the magazine or journal that you're looking at, the issue number or date of the publication. Sometimes there will be both, sometimes you'll only have one, sometimes you'll also have a volume number. Just whatever of that information you can find, you want to include it. Page numbers that the article appears on. Medium, and again, if you can hold it in your hand and flip through the pages, it's print. So here's what it looks like when you put it all together. Author, title, magazine, date, page numbers, and print. For websites, the information that you need to know. Author's name, if there is one. You won't always have one, and sometimes you'll have an organization instead of an author. If you have the name of an organization, for instance, you might have something like the National Health Institute is the website, and they are the ones giving the information. If that happens, you can just use that as if it was the author's name. Now, if you have an organization name, there's obviously no first and last name, so you wouldn't have to put last comma first with the names. You would just put National Health Institute as the author. The article's name. This should be at the top. The title of the article should definitely be at the top. You will always have an article title. Don't tell me there wasn't a title. I promise you there was. A website's name. Again, you must have the name of the website. And I'll show you in just a second a quick trick to finding website names. The date the article was posted, if there is one. And this is one where, just like with the author, there might not be any information on when it was posted. If it's not there at all, just leave it blank. Same thing for up here with the author of the article. If it's not there, you can just leave it blank. The medium it was published in, which if you found it by going through a computer, is always going to be web. And then finally, the date that you gather the information. So when you put it all together, this is what it looks like. Like I said, if there's no author, just leave it blank and start with the article title. Then you have the name of the website, the date it was posted, if you can find it, web, because that is the medium, and then finally the day that you looked at it. And make sure with your dates that you put in here that you use this format: the day, the number day, the month abbreviated, and then the year. That's the format you'll use for all dates. Now I want to take just a second to show you a website and show you how you find this information, because sometimes it's easy and sometimes it is not so easy. Usually, if you look at the top of your website, you will find all of this information. So here we have the title of this article right here. Here we have the author. Here we have the date it was posted. You don't need to include the time. You would just want to put, you don't need to include the day of the week either. You just want to put 29 AUG, which is the abbreviation for August, and then 2014. We have the website. So I know on this website already what the name is, but if you're not sure, Usually it's going to be whatever comes between the 3 W's and the .com. So we can see up here, Mother Jones, just like we see at the top of this page, it says Mother Jones. If you're looking for information and having trouble finding it, again, usually for a website, it's going to be either at the top of the page, or sometimes you might have to scroll down to the bottom. Sometimes the author and the posted date are going to be at the very bottom. But I promise you will always be able to find most of this information. So for a database, the information that you need to know is going to be the author's name, the title of the article, as well as the magazine or journal or newspaper that it came from initially, the issue number or volume or date. Again, sometimes you'll have all of this, sometimes you'll only have one of these things, but there should be either a volume, issue, or date, or sometimes several of these. The page numbers the article appears on. The name of the database. So this is important, and this is where you need to be taking notes. If you print something out or you're taking notes on an article, make sure you write down which database it came from. And databases are, where did you go after you went onto the library page? You had to go somewhere to get to that article. So did you use Opposing Viewpoints, or Points of View Reference Center, or Academic Search Complete, or the JSTOR database? All of those are the names of databases. The medium it was published in, which if you use the computer to find it, is going to be web. So even though this is an article from a journal or a magazine usually, you're still going to put web, and you're still going to include all of the web information, because what matters is not where it was originally published, but where you found the information. The date you access the information is going to be the last thing that you put in your entry. So this is what it will look like. Authors' names, title of your article, title of the journal or newspaper or magazine, issue and volume, all those things, year, page numbers, name of the database, medium, and then the date that you looked at it. So again, I want to show you on the databases. Some of these databases are going to, at the bottom, just have the citation for you, or you can just copy and paste it. Some of them won't, but most of them will have it somewhere. So here's an example where this doesn't have it at the bottom of the page. It does have all of the information labeled well for you. So the author, source, this means the magazine title. This has the date, the volume, the issue, pages, all of those things. Database, here it is over here, Points of View Reference Center. And on this other one, if you didn't have this citation down here at the bottom, you can find it up here. Here it is right here, Opposing Viewpoints in Context. So there will always be a database, and it should be somewhere listed when you're looking at your article. It should be there somewhere, the name of the database. Now to go back to this one doesn't have it at the bottom, but over here it has this nifty little thing that says Cite. So if you click on this, it's going to pop up a little box that gives you the citation in all the different formats. So you want to scroll down to where it says MLA, and here's your citation. Now again, remember, if you copy and paste this into a document, it's not going to format it correctly for you as far as the indentations. So make sure you go in and highlight it, make sure it's in Times New Roman 12-point font, double spaced, and make sure that the first line is flush with the margin. Any other lines that you indent them. Documentaries. So for a documentary, the information that you need to know is going to be the title, the name of the director, the name of the company that made it, distributing company or production company, the year it was released, and the medium that you watched it in, which is usually going to be listed as film. So again, we have title, director, you'll put DIR period in front of the director's name. And this is a case where, because it's not listed as the first thing in our entry, it's actually going to be first name and then last, rather than last name, comma, first. So if the name is the very first thing in your entry, it will always be last name, comma, first. If it comes anywhere else, it will always be just first and last name. Universal is the production company, and then the year, and then film is the medium. Now, this information you can usually find on a website, just a general website about your documentary, or you might be able to find it if you checked it out from the library and you have a DVD case or something like that. If you don't have any of those things available, you can always come to a website like imdb.com and just in the search bar here, put in your documentary, and usually it will pop up the title, the year. Here we have the director's name. If you scroll down on this page far enough, you will get to this information down here, and you'll find company credits, and this will tell you what is the production company that made this film. So that's a quick trick if you're doing a documentary. Now, some quick resources that I want to talk to help you make sure that you're doing all of these things correctly. So one is EasyBib. This is at easybib.com. There are several sites like this. You can use these. They're much better than using nothing. However, I have seen them cite things wrong. So this is what it looks like, EasyBib, the website, when you go to it. And like I said, there's other similar websites. But it'll pop up. Usually it defaults to MLA, and you can put in a URL, or you can choose, whichever of your sources that it is that you're trying to make an entry for. And it's pretty good, but it's not always 100% accurate. So I always encourage you to double check whatever it gives you, whatever information that it gives you with your book or with a different site, just to make sure that it's correct. Because if it's wrong in your paper, you cannot come to me and say, oh, but this is what EasyBib told me. It's still wrong. And I'm telling you to use these sites with caution, and so if it's wrong in your paper, it's still wrong. So another great resource is the Purdue OWL, this website over here. So all you have to do to find it is Google Purdue OWL, and it will pop up the link to it, and you just click on the link. And this is a great site that has information about all different kinds of formats, and if you go down here to MLA Guide and click on it, it will give you how to use MLA format for lots of different sources. This is a great site if you ever need to look up different formats and how to use them. And over here it's got the index of all the different information that it has included on this site. So this is another great site. And then finally, your Bridging the Difference book. So at the time of this recording, we are on the 3rd edition of Bridging the Difference. Within that particular edition, the format guide for Works Cited is on page, it starts on page 87, it goes through page 95, and on page 95 there's a sample MLA page that you can look at. However, if you are watching this in the future, we may have a different edition. It may be on different pages. The best way to find it, if you're not using the 3rd edition, is to just open up the table of contents, go down the list, find where it says MLA Style and Documentation, and then look for where it says General Formatting Guidelines for the MLA Works Cited. So again, this will work whether you're doing a Works Cited or a bibliography. It will show you how to organize the different pieces of information. So here is your assignment, your writing exercise. So I've given you 4 different sources. For each one, I want you to go through and I want you to take the information that I've given and I want you to organize it into a correct works cited, or bibliographic entry for each one. Now again, to do this assignment, the best way to do it is to use those resources that I told you. So you can go back and use this video. Just go back to the beginning and stop and pause it on each source as I explain how you do it, and as you look at the examples of what gets italicized and what goes in quotation marks and where do you put commas and periods and those kinds of things. You can also use EasyBib for this or another similar website. You can also use the Purdue OWL website, or you can look in your Bridging the Difference book and look at the examples that it gives. So you've got multiple different resources to use for this, but I want you to give this a try. Make sure that you understand how to do it. This will be due in class, in our next class period, and we'll go over it and we'll make sure everybody understands. So if you have questions, you can email me. But again, we'll talk about the correct answers in our next class meeting.